Hi, I'm back with another video about unbrainwashing America. You probably think you have freedom of speech. You probably think the Constitution gave you freedom of speech. What you don't know is that the Constitution was written in part by enemies of the United States known as attorneys, members of the secret society called the British Crown, an organization that we absolved ourselves from all allegiance to in the Declaration of Independence, our supreme law above the Constitution. To understand how attorneys subverted the Declaration of Independence, you have to look very, very carefully at every word they used in writing the Constitution to subvert the Declaration of Independence, and give the attorneys the opportunity to put themselves in positions to violate our freedom every chance they got. So let's take a look at the First Amendment and see if we can figure out exactly what the attorneys did. Here it is. Congress shall make no law. We stop right there. It says Congress shall make no law, which to an attorney means that as long as Congress aren't the ones making the law, that then someone else can make a law, and that's okay. Common sense would tell you that Congress is the lawmaking body in the United States, so that this would mean Congress can't make a law abridging the freedom of speech. But you're not an attorney. You're a normal, honest, decent person who uses common sense and doesn't see the evil that is present in every attorney who serves Lucifer and the British Crown to restrain the beasts of prey called men with their brutal and blind force disguised as law to keep humans enslaved to banksters. So, if you have to think like a lawyer to figure out what they did, you got to look at every single word. Congress shall make no law doesn't mean anything to judges in the United States because all judges are attorneys and they can legislate anything they want from the bench because they know that every politician in the United States is corrupt and that they're not going to throw the judge off the bench for making ridiculous decisions that violate the spirit of the First Amendment and that clearly violate the Declaration of Independence, which takes away our rights to life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, and freedom from host pandemics, among other things. If Congress can't make a law abridging the freedom of speech, then judges can't make a law abridging the freedom of speech, which they do by claiming that private companies like Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube can violate freedom of speech anytime they want. If you're a lawyer, you say, yeah, well, as long as Congress isn't making a law that violates freedom of speech, then it's fine if Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter violate your rights by banning you from using their platforms for as long as they want, for 30 days at a time like Facebook does, or just deleting your videos like YouTube does and maybe giving you a warning, then deleting your account. I think Facebook enjoys having fun banning people for 30 days at a time because they just keep doing it. They ban you for 30 days, let you back on for 30 days, then ban you again. Doesn't matter what you say, they'll ban you for anything you say. And this certainly violates the spirit of the First Amendment, which makes us think we have freedom of speech. We don't, because lawyers worded the law wrong. What they should have done was said nobody in the United States can abridge the freedom of speech. Now that would have covered it. If they had written nobody can abridge the freedom of speech, that Mark Zuckerberg wouldn't be able to abridge freedom of speech. And neither would Jack Dorsey from Twitter or the corporation that runs YouTube, Google. I don't know who the man is that's in charge of that. Or woman, some scumbag who's the CEO. Do you understand? It's the words they don't use that subvert the Declaration of Independence. Why would anyone say Congress shall make no law? When common sense tells you if you want freedom of speech, you have to say nobody in the United States can abridge the freedom of speech. And we'll leave out the common sense arguments about yelling fire in a crowded theater, but we won't include arguments about hate speech because hate speech draws on an agenda of vicious and stupid people who want to refer to anything as hate speech if they don't like the sound of it. So there's no such thing as hate speech. It's ridiculous. Let's go further into the First Amendment to see more nonsense that the lawyers put in there to subvert the Declaration of Independence. Congress shall make no law and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. Now, as the people are the authorities in the United States, not the government are servants, why would any sane person petition the government for a redress of grievances when they can simply give the government orders? Would you petition your butler for a redress of grievances if you caught him raping your 7-year-old daughter? I don't think you would. I think you'd take matters into your own hands and take care of that butler. Today you wouldn't be allowed to do that because an enemy judge would stick you in jail for violating laws if you beat that butler to death with a bat, like you would want to do. Common sense would tell you, go ahead and kill him. Do whatever you want to him. Because people cannot rape 7-year-old girls. Lawyers want you to petition the government in that situation. It's just plain stupid. What it should say, instead of petitioning the government, is that you have the right, which is worded correctly in the Declaration of Independence, to alter or abolish the government, or to throw off such government and provide new guards for your future security. That's what it should say in the First Amendment. Further, they might add that we, the people, must form an organization to oversee our government servants, instead of relying on a corrupt press to do that for us. That's what an intelligent person who was not a lawyer might have written in the First Amendment. Using the right words to ensure that our rights could not be violated by any enemy judges or by corrupt politicians. You have to put all the right words in that First Amendment. Words like nobody can abridge the freedom of speech, and everyone has the right to unite, talk to each other, and fire our scumbag government when they make laws for us without our consent. That's the law. If the government wants to make rules, they have to have our consent. That's the Declaration of Independence, the supreme law in the United States. It's all about consent. That's what you have to learn to unbrainwash yourselves. You have to look at every word used by every lawyer who sneaked into our government in violation of the Declaration of Independence and subverted the Declaration of Independence. That's the law. Read it, obey it, understand who you are. You are the authority. Politicians are servants. All government employees are servants. Attorneys/lawyers are enemies of humanity who are attacking you constantly with a brutal and blind force disguised as law. It isn't law to restrain the beast of prey called men and keep you enslaved to the banksters. The banksters own the Federal Reserve to keep you enslaved with their counterfeit dollars. And that's why we have lawyers everywhere in our government to make sure the banksters can do that. Because everything the banks do violates our laws. It violates the Constitution and it violates the Declaration of Independence. Unbrainwash yourself. Think about everything the lawyers have done. Lawyers are your enemies. See their words as words of an enemy. Words taught to them by their master, Lucifer. Thanks for watching.